my whole big thing is the partisan issue. I think Republicans and Democrats don't even know the difference between one another anymore. The only difference really happens at the legislative level when the laws go either in support of the state regulating our life or against that, and for the families and businesses and people having control of their own behaviors. The republic idea, it's what America was founded on. Partisanship is always going to exist, but truth cannot be a casualty of political partisanship. And when that occurs, that is when the fundamentals of this country collapse and break down. But I want to stay on point with finding the truth. Another leader of one of the political parties, again, I don't care what political party it is, states that our first selectman is the cause of the genocide of one of the political parties in our town because there's less than a half dozen of that particular party serving on the boards and commissions. I'm thinking to myself, if this is true, we've got a problem. We need to get this guy out of here. So I go on the website, bethelct.org, our town website. I look at the boards and commissions. There's not a half dozen people on these boards and commissions. There's 32 Democrats on the boards and commissions.
Well, you're talking about not just elected boards, but also appointed boards and commissions.
Yes, and there's actually, I believe it's 11 on the elected boards. So you start to string together this pattern of manipulated propaganda, and it's frustrating. There needs to be a purging of politics, a purging of those that have propagated mistruths to the public.
Practice deception.
For purposes of financial, political, or power gain. You got to get the special interest money out of running government.
Well, that's what it is, and that's what shapes policy, and that's what shapes so much of the bad legislation that comes out, because it's literally tied to special interests.
It's bought. It's bribery. It's legalized bribery.
Protection money.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Protection legislation.
We'll keep you in office. You push our agenda. You can't keep raising taxes.
Right.
You can't keep adding fees to the very institutions and individuals that are supporting the economy. You don't make a business unable to operate and function and expect the economy to get better. It defies explanation other than some other financial or agenda-driven power interest. Do you realize that we are in the worst economy since the Great Depression, essentially? And our town has seen the second lowest tax increase in Bethel history. That's number one. Number two, this is the first year in 155 years of the history of Bethel that there was a reduction of town-side spending. Now let's fathom that. A century, 100 years, a century and a half, the first time that there was a reduction in town-side spending. You can kind of sit on this for 30 seconds and stew in your mind how significant that is. Split the charter, 23 charter revisions. Senior citizens increase their income limits by almost, I think it's 20%.
Well, a lot of that happened before the fall of the economy, before the economy crashed.
Yes.
It was progressive.
Veterans, same thing, increased their tax abatement, their income limits for tax abatement. The high school. Now this is a man who has been called by members of our state legislature a hater of education, a hater of children due to this philosophy of hating education, who gets a high school building project done on time, on budget. And what they say against him is this: he came in and fired everybody and hired his own crew. He waited 10 months. 10 months.
Yeah.
There were serious contingencies that could have never been accounted for, and they still came in on time, on budget. Children's safety. Bob Burke vote on and approve a program that's going to implement a child predator web net-based safety program for our children. That's public safety. You look at public safety. Just recently, We are now looking at an advanced life support system via our paramedic intercept system, whereby Bethel now has 2 paramedics in town. This lowers your response time from 15 minutes, 20 minutes to 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. And we're sharing this with Reading. The list goes on. The roads, people are complaining. They're trying to use the roads, the conditions of the roads against this man without even understanding the reasons why the roads aren't done yet. We've had the coldest and wettest spring in years. There are certain conditions that must be met in order to effectively pave the roads so that you do it once and you do it right. A lot of roads are going to be paved this summer in Bethel. I can't find another first selectman in the history of the town of Bethel that's accumulated as many accomplishments as Bob Burke has. Finance. Let's talk about finance. Now, here's a guy that has been called a dummy. He rebonded 3 times and saved the town $500,000. This is at a time when our town had a $1.5 million shortfall we were worried about. In 4 years, he's added 20% to our town's general fund. He's added $1 million to our town's general fund. Another one, our pension fund. Okay? Again, here's the dummy, the bully. We have the best performing pension fund in the state of Connecticut. People can't comprehend that. What they'll try to say on the other side is he lost 9%. Do you know what the state of Connecticut lost? Over 20%. That's about the average loss around the state for towns and cities. 20%. We lost 9%. He outperformed the entire state during one of the worst financial crises in the history of this country. Because it is a large segment of our town's expenses, and I believe there are a lot of questions that need to be answered with regard to lower SAT scores, why prices have why the cost has increased while enrollment's down. We have less teachers with graduate degrees now than we did 10 years ago. Our SAT scores are below what they were 10 years ago. So under our existing leadership, we need explanations for what's happening and why. And if it's an issue with mandates and states and legislation, well, let's address that with the state and the federal government and let them know that it's not working. But if it's an issue where we're going in one direction and other towns and communities in the state are going in an opposite direction, well, then we need to question the leadership in these departments.
And you're a registered